Thomas Paine, Thomas Paine, Thomas Paine, Sam Adams, Sam Adams, Sam Adams, Benjamin Franklin, Benjamin Franklin, Benjamin Franklin. These men spoke up for what they thought was right. From their courage came such documents as the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution of the United States. From their willingness to speak what was sometimes unpopular but right, we enjoy such liberties as freedom of speech, the right to keep and bear arms, and freedom of religion. There are those who still wish to oppress our freedoms, and there are still patriots willing to stand up and defend life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Men like Zeb Bell, who honor our founding fathers and what they stood for. It's now time for Zeb at the ranch, speaking up and defending your freedoms. Brought to you by Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers and all of the other great advertisers on the program. And now, Zeb Bell.
Yesterday, I was sent a picture of our Vice President, Kamala Harris, sitting there looking back at the camera, so smug and so arrogant. And the caption of the picture sums it all up. You think things are bad now, just wait till she takes over. Think about it. Here comes Kate Smith and God Bless America, followed by Patriot. Come on, Patriots. Better call while you can with the pledge. Good morning. And a good morning to you and yours on this Tuesday, March 23rd. Zeb at the Ranch, and so glad you're with us. Brought to you by our major sponsor, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. All 7 locations serving you with the best in tires and always the best in service. Don't forget, too, Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation at 1263 Bennett Avenue, Suite 2 in Burley, helping you get back to being you. Right now, let's go to the phone line and have a Pledge of Allegiance. Good morning.
Good morning. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Are you going to be at Lunch Bunch on the 1st?
I sure am.
That a girl. That a girl. Thank you very much, Lauren. I appreciate you. God bless. Have a wonderful day. Right now, the weather forecast brought to you by K&R Rental at 256 South, 600 west of Hayburn on the Burley-Paul Highway. They get there early in the morning because they know you got spring fever and you want to get out there and get a whole bunch of projects done and or started. So they've got the equipment for both long and short-term rental. Oh, you're not sure what you need? Well, give Roger a call at 678-3122. They can help you at K&R Rental. Right now, here's Gina with the forecast.
A few more snow showers for this morning. Then we're expecting mostly cloudy skies by the afternoon and a high of about 47. Slight breeze out of the west at about 10 miles an hour. For tonight, mostly cloudy skies, hopefully gradually clearing with a low right around 25. By tomorrow, looks like partly cloudy skies, high of 46. Slight chance of snow showers for tomorrow night with a low of about 32. Then by Thursday, guess what? More snow showers in the forecast, mostly cloudy skies, and a high of 43. That's look at your weather.
Oh, my goodness sakes. Spring? Spring? Where's spring? Somebody lost it. Weather forecast brought to you by K&R Rental at 256 South, 600 west of Hayburn. Like I said, right there on the Burley-Paul Highway. You can't miss them, nor should you. You need to stop in and make sure that you check out all the equipment you need for spring at K&R Rental. You betcha, on the Burley-Paul Highway, 678-3122. Want to give a great big shout-out again to our dear friends at Darrell's Cleaners. I just picked up some shirts there the other day, and oh, they look brand new. I'm telling you what, dry cleaning prolongs the life of your clothes, and they do such a wonderful job. I really brag on Kevin and Cindy and the whole outfit over there, because when I take my clothes in there and they're all rumply and crumply, they come back and they look great. They look great. Feel great, dress great. Absolutely. With your clothes being cleaned at Darrell's Cleaners. Cleaners, 1223 Albion Avenue in Burley. Really, really nice people. You know, it goes without saying when I talk about nice people, I also have to talk about our dear friends at Ramsey Heating and Electric. And they, too, get there early in the morning to serve you at 2600 Overland Avenue in Burley. And the number to call, 678-0459. Literally all your heating, cooling, and electrical needs are right there. And in the next couple of days, we'll start, I think, acting more like a springtime forecast. So we better get ready for the air conditioning. Yeah, I know you're saying, Zab, it's only going to be in the 40s. Well, that's going to change. You check it all out. They've got all the filters, everything for you. All your heating, cooling, and electrical needs, where they provide warm winters and cool summers at Ramsey Heating and Electric, 2600 Overland Avenue in Burley. All right, calls are welcome and appreciated at 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Just a little note here about how biased the media is, especially the Associated Press. I don't know if you had a chance to read about the border problem, chaos, crisis, whatever you want to call it, yesterday, but on the front page of our illustrious Times News, an Associated Press story, and the headline was, Biden faces a crisis at the border. But the second paragraph says, administration officials say Biden inherited an untenable situation that resulted from what they say was President Donald Trump's undermining and weakening of the immigration system. Would somebody tell me, please call me at 436-2244, how in the world, when the immigration illegally that was coming across the border basically was just nothing but a drip when Trump was there, as compared to an open flow like it is now under the Biden administration, how did he inherit an untenable situation and Trump undermined and weakened the immigration system? It's nothing but lies, blatant Democratic lies. And we are the ones that are suffering from it. I'll still maintain that all attorney generals, every state needs to have their attorney generals join on board with Florida, Indiana, Texas, and other AGs and sue the Biden administration for the influx of illegals coming not only just across the border, but to all points east, west, north, and south here in this United States. They're here illegally. Attorney generals, you need to get on board and sign and sue the Biden administration. Do I think Wasden will do it? No. Calls are welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Hey, by the way, I want to mention again, we are going to be over at Denny's restaurant on April 1st. I know it's April Fool's Day. We're going to have some fun with that. And there's going to be a special prize to the person that wears the wackiest hat. I'm kidding. I'm not kidding you. Wackiest hat. This is not an April Fool's joke. It's for real. We're going to go with a Mad Hatter special to win a prize at our April 1st Denny's restaurant return of Zeb's Lunch Bunch at 611 North Overland in Burley, with all the new menu choices like the Big Dipper Melt. Ooh, tender pot roast with melted Swiss cheese. That's what I'm going to have. And all the different kinds of new desserts and everything. You're going to love it. Great staff at Denny's Restaurant, America's Diner, 611 North Overland in Burley. Nice people. Come on, callers. Let's set the pace here this morning. My goodness, everybody sleep in. Give me a jingle on the landline, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Well, I have just a minute, too. I understand that our dear friend Anthony, he's down there at Save on Shells, 1827 Overland and Burley. Have you been by there? I mean, if you've driven by, you've seen camper shell upon camper shell upon camper shell. I mean, over 90 of them. I mean, he's got a whole herd of them. And he's got just the ones for you. Now is camper shell season. I mean, to protect all your tools and all your fishing equipment, everything in the back of your pickup. And if he doesn't have the camper shell color that you want, you can special order one. By golly, ARE camper shells, they are the best. And I've got one because I know. You check it out today. Call him at 312-1525. Anthony at Save on Shells, 1827 Overland in Burley. Really a good old boy. Everyone, yes, everyone I talk to is already fed up with the incompetency and the stupidity of the Biden administration. And like I said about Kamala Harris, we probably ain't seen nothing yet. Right now this morning, they are talking about having an increase. This isn't in addition to the $1.9 billion or $1 trillion bill that just passed, the COVID relief bill, which was a joke, a farce, and everything else. This is a brand new one. They want another $3 trillion for infrastructure bill. And let me tell you, it's going to hurt all of us. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Good morning, sir.
My friend.
In about a little over 60 days, they want to spend $5 trillion that we do not have.
Yep.
And here they were complaining that President Trump was blowing up the deficit.
Yeah. We are now, Doug, over $25 trillion in debt. I said the other day on the radio, and I mean this, I can't fathom $25 trillion. I can't even fathom $1 trillion. And they want to increase it more. And with this new bill, with more, $3 trillion more for the infrastructure, I do know little things that they're going to put in it. I talked to some people late last night and this morning, and one of which, to tax everybody that drives a vehicle, they're going to force us to put a little monitor in there. So every time we back out of our driveway, we pay a road tax.
Yes. Yeah, and that's, that's invasion of privacy.
Absolutely. Everybody should take a hammer and they should destroy that.
Very true. But they also need to start taxing these electric cars that are out there.
I agree.
For road tax.
I agree.
Because they get a tax break of I've heard $1,700 or $2,000 or more. A tax break if they buy one. And then they drive on the road. There's no road tax put on their electric bill. There's no road tax put on these stations that charge them on the road.
Wouldn't
driving on the road for free.
I am going to try. I'm going to try, Doug. And by the way, Sean, I got a little feedback here. Help me out, please. I'm going to try in the next couple of weeks to get someone on the left that's an advocate for electric cars and electric energy. And I'm going to try to get somebody else, and we're going to have a three-way debate on this on the air, because not one time, and I dare you to tell me I'm wrong, not one time have you heard a good debate about energy and how bad and how absolutely false electric energy with the new grid on solar and wind and electric cars and charging stations. You've never heard a good debate about it because those people are too cowardly to come on and talk about it.
Exactly. And when you do get them on, pull up that article that I sent you a couple of years ago about what one electric car does to the grid when they plug it in.
And we are not ready, anywhere close to being ready for any kind of a resurgence or surge, I should say, of electric cars on the market today. We cannot, and it's idiocy. I talked to Dan Kish this morning. And Dan's back in Virginia, and he unfortunately can't be on the air this morning. But he told me in a note that he sent that they, being the government with the Biden leadership, are going to make it harder and more expensive, and then he put much more expensive, to get diesel in the next couple of months. Please tell me, my dear friend, what's going to happen to agriculture?
Well, what's going to happen to the commodities that ship from producer to consumer?
That's right. There's no foresight with the Biden administration and Kamala Harris, etc. These people are evil, they're sinister, and they're dumb.
Well, the last one you nailed right on the head. They are dumb. Or they are wanting to tear this country down, and Obama took 8 years and couldn't get it done, so they want to get it done in 1 year before midterm elections.
But there again, therein lies another problem. And to the caller that's waiting, don't go away, I'll be there momentarily. Therein lies another problem. If they, the Democrats, with their power, they get H.R. 1, which means that basically, in simple terminology, they're going to take over the elections, etc., and have all mail-in balloting and no IDs, etc. Hey, the days of fair elections, you can kiss that duck goodbye.
Exactly. It'll be just like Russia. It'll be just like Venezuela. I mean, if this is the kind of America we want, let's keep voting in Democrats, because Democrats will do anything to keep power. Anything. And they're wanting to come after our guns because, after 40-some years, we've been fine with our guns, but now they want to take them away from us. So if they're willing to do this right now, while we still have the guns, imagine what they'll do if we do not have it.
Well, let's just take this, and Doug, I got another call that's patiently waiting. Let's just say this. After the tragedy and the horrific happenings as to what happened in Atlanta, and then yesterday with the shootings in Boulder, Colorado, my heart goes out to everybody, but I will say this and I'll maintain this. For those sick people that generated that crime and committed that crime, all the more reason why I, as a private citizen, am going to arm myself and protect myself.
Exactly, and I said this 2 months ago when he was inaugurated. I said this, and other people have said it. The mass shootings are going to start to happen as they come after our guns.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And by the way, the Senate is having a special hearing this morning on gun violence, and tonight at 5 o'clock. It's going to be interesting what comes out of that meeting. Doug, I've got to run. Please, thank you.
You bet. Hey, everybody, let's do what we can for our senior centers. I know I sound like a broken record, but they need our help. They need volunteers. They need people to help donate to keep them going. And then go eat there and leave with a full tummy and a full heart.
God bless you, man. Thanks so much. Appreciate it. Caller, I'll be right there. I promise. I'm on the way. Dino Septic Service, they're on the way, too, to serve everybody with the most modern equipment for septic tank pumping, backhoe services, mainline irrigation installation and repair, sewer and sink drain lines cleaning, liquid waste removal. I'm telling you, these people do the job that we don't want to do, and they do it very, very well. Call them at 436-6526 or in Burley 678-1638, and contact Dino Septic Service in Twin at 735-8281. They are the best at what they do. Dino Septic Service, with a big truck that says smells cargo on the way. Caller, thank you for your patience. Good morning.
Well, you're sure welcome. I know you're a busy man. Doug had said something several days ago, but it really stuck with me, that these charging stations that they're putting in everywhere, when you plug your car in there, if it's electric, it's using as much electricity as 4 households.
Mm-hmm.
My goodness sakes, we can't keep up with it now. What are we going to do with it when we don't have any gas to buy?
Well, and think of this, Keith. Put this in perspective. if we are forced, we the American people, by this ludicrous, stupid government, to all get rid of our gasoline and diesel engines vehicles and forced to buy electric, just take the city of Burley. What is the city of Burley? About 8,500, 9,000 people? So let's just use...
Over 10,000.
Well, okay, let's just use a supposition. Let's not argue about numbers. That doesn't mean anything. But let's just say that 9 or 10,000 people in one little community are forced to go with electric cars through this stupid government. Where are all the charging stations? Where is all the time that it's going to take? And where in the world is all that power going to come from?
I don't know, but yesterday, as we were coming out of Walmart, I looked at those 4 or 5 checking posts, or whatever you call them, and there was not a car in sight.
Yeah.
For taking of that. So if they put all these in and nobody uses them, somebody's going to be wasting a lot of money.
Well, the whole thing is ridiculous, stupid, and it's frivolously fraud. And I know that we are not about to switch over from gasoline and diesel. We can't. Farming and agriculture, transportation, everything will go right down the tube. These people with this Biden administration are about as far-sighted as Mr. Magoo with glasses that he can't even see his nose with.
I want to ask you about a scenario.
Real quick.
In our next election, we are able to take back the House and the Senate, and we want to open up the pipeline. Can Biden prevent that?
He's going to claim executive powers, and he's going to try to stop everything he can with vetoes, etc. But I honestly think that if we regain the House and the Senate, we'll have enough to shift the power plane, if you will, and get things back the way they should be, so to speak, right the ship. And the way things are going with this administration, I honestly think that the end is near for this great United States. Somebody said to me yesterday, well, don't sound negative about it. No, I'm not sounding negative. I'm being realistic. Get your head out of the sand and start realizing that we're going to lose everything this country stands for with this absolutely evil administration.
You know, one of your guests yesterday had mentioned that money is not going to be worth anything. It's just going to be paper.
Yeah, that was Dave Morgan that was on my program yesterday, and he's going to come back, yeah.
Well, I guess I took it wrong, but does he have facts that we don't know?
Oh, well, Keith, money, our United States currency, with money on paper, you know as well as I do that's not based on anything but something to start a fire with. You know that.
Well, I realize that, yeah. But I've been hearing this story ever since I was a very young man.
Why do you think there's been such a push for gold and silver and really something of value? The way that this government wants to print money and take money, I mean, here $1 trillion, there $1 trillion, here $3 trillion, etc. Keith, I mean, our currency is absolutely being devalued with inflationary means by this government that absolutely is destroying the American dollar.
Well, us that have saved our money, but we haven't bought gold and silver. What will we do?
Well, I'm not going to get into that time-wise, but I'll tell you what, people better get their head out of the sand or wherever and realize that paper, absolute paper currency, it's not meaning a thing. The way that inflation is taking over our society and the taxation with the trillions upon trillions of dollars in debt, come on, folks, we've got problems. I got to run, Keith. Thank you, and God bless you for your call. I appreciate it. Thank you very much. Thank you. Don't forget, big March Madness going on at Redder's Showcase, 2611 Overland and Burley. Oh, my goodness sakes, these are good folks, and they've got everything. Special purchases on deluxe queen mattresses, now at just $4.99. They've got all your Whirlpool, Amana, Maytag, KitchenAid appliances. They've got refrigerators starting at just $3.99. Holy smokes, up to 12 months, same as cash, OAC. You better get in there today. And don't forget, they're going to give away over $6,000 in prizes at Redder's Showcase, 2611 Overland and Burley. You stop in and see them today. Right now, I believe at the phones over at the main studios, we have a gentleman waiting on the line by the name of Robert Griffin. Robert, are you there?
He never called.
He hasn't called? I told him to call right at 8:30.
Calling right now.
Okay. When I say 8:30, I mean 8:30. I don't mean 8:31. So we'll have his call right now. Robert, is that you? We're waiting.
Okay, he's on the line.
All right, Robert, good morning. You're on the air.
How are you, Zeb?
I'm good. I understand that you've got a big meeting coming up tonight. Quickly tell us about it.
Yes, we have a group that has formed out of just concern for our society. It's called Idaho. Anyway, it's at 7 o'clock tonight at the First Christian Church just east of the Minidoka Memorial Hospital. And we're going to have we're going to have Dorothy Moon, who is a senator, and she has been in the legislative session up in Boise, and they're not going to reconvene until April 6th because a couple of the people, 3 or 4 people, got COVID, and so she is going to come tonight and talk to us and tell us about what's going on and, most importantly, what's not going on. And we just want people to come and find out because we're in a mess. And we're Minidoka Memorial, right by Minidoka Memorial Hospital at 7 p.m.
All right. Now, it's the First Christian Church. Is that right?
Yes, the First Christian Church.
All right. And the group that you represent is called United We Stand, correct?
Yes, United We Stand, Idaho.
Okay.
It was Minicaja United We Stand. We've changed it to United We Stand, Idaho, because we've had people from Twin Falls come and other places, and we're just trying to join members all throughout Idaho. And we're even tied in with some people down in St. George.
Mm-hmm.
And, people wonder where they can go to get good information because of the media. We, the people, are the new media.
Well, don't lump the media, Robert, let me give you a little warning there, Robert. Don't lump the media all into one basket. I'm helping you get this meeting going, so don't say media per se as in all-encompassing. I'll help you all I can, but I'm part of the media too.
Yes, you are. Well, you're one of the last bastions of media that we have, you, and there's very few on the radio anymore that can sound off for freedom, and we're grateful that that you do it. We're going to cover a lot of things tonight. We're going to cover the breaching of the dams. Mike Simpson is going to be in Rupert on March 30th at 2 p.m. at the courthouse. We hope that people will flood to that. I just spent a couple of days in Chalice. I met the lieutenant governor. I met a man, Art McComber, who's going to run for attorney general because we've got problems in the state of Idaho, from the attorney general to the governor and even some of our own representatives here.
Absolutely. Let me ask you this real quick, Robert, and then I want you to recap about this meeting tonight. But United We Stand, what basically, and I want you to put this into kind of a sentence form, what basically does your group want and what are you striving for?
We're basically striving to inform and teach people about the issues that are going on. We cover bills that are pertinent to our freedom. So we're basically to inform and educate the people around us so that we can make educated decisions, and so that we will reach out and correspond with our senators and other local and state officials to get them to move and end the emergency orders so that everyone can go back to work and enjoy the freedoms that we obviously need to be having right now.
Yeah, wouldn't you say, I'm just going to throw this at you and see how you catch it, but I think basically your group wants to absolutely support the freedoms and the Constitution that have been afforded us by all the blood, sweat, and tears and lives of our forefathers, right?
Absolutely. The Constitution was written to keep the government under control, not the people.
That's right.
And the Communist Party that's in right now wants to try to use it and flip it and use it to control us.
All right. Now tell us again about the meeting tonight real quick.
The meeting tonight is at the First Christian Church. It's right between the canal and the Minidoka Memorial Hospital. It is at 7 p.m., and Dorothy Moon will share a lot of stuff with you. I'll cover some stuff on the breaching of the dam and some of the issues facing the schools, and it's going to be very informative. It costs nothing to join our group. We just want to help people be informed. We have a website where people can go and look up information, and from the people I've met, I found out that a lot of them, they're just regular folks like you and I, and they want to make a difference in Idaho, and we need to help them.
Absolutely. Robert, I'm going to put you on the hook. Tomorrow morning, I want you to call back on this program and let us know how it went, all right?
Okay, thank you, Zach.
All right, God bless you, man. Thanks, and good luck. United we stand. These are people that are getting involved and trying to do something. We are looking at some tough times right now. We are looking at, after that election in 2020, which I still think, and I'll say it, I don't care about who writes op-eds for the phony Times News. The election last fall was, I think, as phony as can be, and I think very jaded as far as honesty is concerned. And I respect people that want to fight and stand up for our Constitution and our rights. We're a country right now with the border problems, energy problems, taxation problems, all the problems that have been thrust upon us. We don't have any leadership. We do not have any leadership. We've got a man sitting in the Oval Office that's suffering from dementia, can't climb up the steps to go into an airplane. We've got a vice president that is nothing more than a power monger and wants to sit in that Oval Office and take over complete control. Caller, good morning. You're on the air. Go ahead, please.
Yes, good morning, Zeb. I think another thing that needs to be touched on, all these children's programs that we've known for years, healthy programs, are they going to be replaced with the Communist Manifesto? And where are the parents of these children that are in school and have to put up with this cancellation of decent programs in our schools?
Well, I don't know which programs you're referring to primarily or in a singular fashion, but I mean, you and I grew up and, I'm going to lump you into the same age category. There was right and wrong. There was black and white on all issues. And there were cartoons and shows that depicted families and humorous situations. And the cancel culture is coming in and calling basically everything racist. As a matter of fact, I got to tell you this, Tony. Even yesterday, with the great big huge Cigna insurance company, they have forbid their employees to say anything about having a brown bag lunch because now that's considered racist. This is the epitome of stupidness and insanity that's going on in this country.
Well, there's no more discipline anywhere. I spent 9 years in a Catholic school, and I'll tell you one thing. I got banged around by the nuns and the priests because I did something wrong. When I went home and I told my mom about it, and my dad, I said, "What'd you do?" And I got another one when I got home. So
you sure?
I learned to behave myself.
Are you sure that you didn't have my mom and dad? Whoa, I can remember.
We had a lot in common along that way.
Let me tell you, when Mrs. Kiltz, when I was in elementary school, and I've said this before on the air, and it's true, when Mrs. Kiltz reprimanded us, she would sit at her desk and write out a note to my mother and father, or to anybody's mother and father, and you had to put it in your shirt, and you had to take it home and have it signed by your mom and dad and bring it back. And that's when the end of your life came into focus.
Yeah, I remember going into the principal's office, and they say, "Hold your hand out."
Yep.
Upside down.
Bang.
And I got the ruler across the knuckles. That's the way things work.
I've got it between 7.5 and 9 3/4 inches. Bang. It's indelible on the back of my hand right now. I got to run, Tony. Thank you so much.
Okay, well,
All right. Caller, I'll be right there. Stand by. I want to remind everybody about Barry Equipment and Rental, sales, service, and parts. 159 West Highway 30 in Burley, 465 Addison Avenue West in Twin, and the Napa location. You know, you've got jobs to do this spring. You've got things to do, things to lift and dig and push and carry and grading and leveling. Well, I'll tell you what. They've got all the Doosan wheel loaders and the excavators. They've got all the Bobcats, all the shapes and sizes, the trenchers, the scissor lifts. Oh my, they've got the equipment you need. You better believe it. Great rental rates, low rental rates. And if you want to buy, they got great financing programs. Check it out today at Barry Equipment and Rental in Burley, Twin Falls, and Napa. Real quick, I also want to remind you about our friends over at Wick Steak Place. Oh, every time I do their ad, I got to tell you that I just start drooling all over the microphone. The food is phenomenal at Wick Steak Place and Burnout Saloon at 18 East Main Street in Declo. Boy, you better get there early. They open at 4 in the afternoon, Wednesday through Saturday, and I'm telling you what, get a parking spot, go on in and enjoy. All your friends are there. And whether you just want a hamburger all the way to prime rib or maybe lobster or ribs, chicken, whatever, it's so good. People are nice, and you're going to have a great time at Wick Steak Place and Burnout Saloon, 18 East Main Street in Declo. Caller, good morning. Thank you.
Good morning, Zeb. Well, I'll tell you, they have a full court press to destroy this country. Look at the hypocrisy.
Yep.
Biden's little 18-minute talk last week, and he says if we behave ourselves and do everything, all the edicts and lockdown procedure, then maybe we can have a backyard barbecue on the 4th of July. And at the same time, we open up the border, let all these people in that have diseases from all over the planet that we have forgot about or don't even know about yet, and no testing on COVID-19. That'd be the least of my worries, but they're likely to ship these people even into our communities.
Oh, yeah.
And it's really scary. We have a refugee program here in the state. Most of that was shut down during the Trump administration, but it's going to be wide open again now. And I have a feeling we better be onto our Attorney General and our leaders in the state to make sure that none of these people show up right here in the Mexico.
Well, hold on, Adrian. Wait a minute.
Security threat, but certainly a health issue.
All right, wait a minute. Listen to me. I think maybe you've missed my plea to the public here in Idaho to call Wasden's office and tell him, not ask him, tell him to sign on to the lawsuit against the Biden administration that's going on with other state attorney generals, Indiana, Texas, Florida, etc., because this thing is getting completely out of hand. But therein lies the problem. I don't think that you'll have any success talking to or with anybody in Wasden's office, because I certainly haven't had, and he, as the Attorney General, should be absolutely standing up for our protection.
Well, he's not been doing a good job. I know him personally. I've known his folks for years, and I'll tell you, it really bothers me that he's had basically, as a friend of mine, he doesn't have a backbone. He has a backbone of a chocolate eclair, and I'll tell you, that's the problem. He just won't stand up for our rights, and he's supposed to do that. And this is a real problem. But we need to just keep on his case, and other elected officials to make sure that these people don't show up here. Because once they're here, some of these infections. I mean, drug-resistant tuberculosis is among those.
Yes.
And it's a nasty deal.
Yep, I agree.
So, folks, we better wake up. But this open border thing is just, now even the mainstream media is waking up to the fact that Sleepy Joe administration screwed up on this deal because of all the people that are coming in here.
Amen.
There's no facilities to be able to process them or test them or anything else, Deb. But you have to realize they want to destroy this country, make us a third world country. What better way to do that than to bring in all these foreign diseases, terrorists and so forth, Zeb.
I agree with you, Adrian, and believe me, there's not one single thing that you said that I do not agree with. I emphatically support what you say. Thank you. I got to run and do the weather. I appreciate your call. God bless you, man.
Have a great day.
Thank you, sir.
Keep up the fight.
I will, always, until somebody decides they want to be smug and arrogant like Kamala Harris and pull the plug. Don't forget our weather, brought to you by Mount Harrison Audio. It's snowing out my window right now. I am not exaggerating. Can't even see the back fence. There's a lot of angel dandruff falling out there. Mount Harrison Audiology and Hearing Aids absolutely can help you with your hearing problems. Have you noticed a diminishment in your hearing? Well, if so, don't put it off. Take care of it today. Call them for an appointment. They're right behind the Minidoka County Hospital across from the emergency room. And the number to call Mount Harrison Audiology is 312-0957. I'll say it again, 312-0957. Take care of it today. Right now, let's see if Little Miss Snowflake is ready with the weather. Good morning, Gina.
A few more snow showers for this morning. Then we're expecting mostly cloudy skies by the afternoon and a high of about 47. Slight breeze out of the west at about 10 miles an hour. For tonight, mostly cloudy skies, hopefully gradually clearing with a low right around 25. By tomorrow, looks like partly cloudy skies, high of 46. Slight chance of snow showers for tomorrow night with a low of about 32. Then by Thursday, guess what? More snow showers in the forecast, mostly cloudy skies, and a high of 43. That's a look at your weather.
Thank you, Gina, and brought to everybody by Mount Harrison Audiology and Hearing Aids. And, of course, again, located right behind the Minidoka County Hospital, and they're waiting to serve you with the best of customized knowledge to help your hearing needs. Absolutely. 312-0957. You give them a call today. Caller, good morning. Good morning. You're on the air.
Well, Zeb, quickly.
Aha.
Our great representative, Mike Simpson, shows up once in a great while, and I guess the reason he's showing up on the just before the 30th is the Lincoln Day celebration, they call it, a celebration in Twin at the Canyon Crest Event Center. And this is my attitude. If you want to confront Crapel and Risch and Simpson, you come to this thing and you publicly get up and you chastise them. Don't say terrible things. I'm going to do it. I'm going to have there's no point in getting into what I'm going to say, but I'm going to publicly chastise them for what they don't do. We never hear from them, and Simpson's and his proposal to breach dams is in total insanity. But you see, he never shows up here unless there's some reason for it. I guess maybe he thinks he's going to, create some funds for some sort of re-election bid or something. I don't know.
Well, you know my feelings about Mike Simpson, and it spans over the last 5 years. We had Mike on every other week, if you'll recall, prior to his getting all upset with my questioning about the Obama administration taking over 16 Muslim Brotherhood people into his cabinet and into the fold in the White House. And Mike called me a McCarthyist and said I was worried about nothing, and I took offense at that. Well, Mr. Simpson better realize that I have every right to get offended by the Muslim Brotherhood being in the confines of the Oval Office in any administration. And Mike works for us. We don't work for him. I absolutely will criticize any politician anytime I want to, and so should you.
Well, that's it's our duty. It's our duty as sovereign individuals of this country to take a government of the people, by the people, for the people won't work if the people don't show up.
That's right.
And hold their elected officials accountable.
That's
now,
right.
Calling them back there doesn't do any good, but getting them in a public forum, whether or not it would be on the radio or at this Lincoln Day banquet, and then I guess I'll ask them while they're here, why aren't you coming out here and doing interviews every 2 weeks, and because we need to know what you're doing for the people of Idaho. Crapo Rish.
Yeah. And by the way, Randy, you've been a good friend of this program ever since I started it. You know, and this is a true statement, you know that I have called them diligently to come on the program, and finally I told my wife, I said, I'm not going to chase a parked car. I'm done with them. I mean, if they don't have the decency and they don't have the backbone to call and say, or have their people do it, we need to get on the program and talk about this, that, and the other. They need to talk to their constituency, the people here in Idaho. And I, for one, am very upset that none of them take the initiative to find out when they can talk to their people.
Well, that's exactly right. And so, if you want to go to the Lincoln Day celebration, what's there to celebrate? I don't know. But you can get a table for $600.
Oh, boy.
You could get a front and center table for $750. And individual tickets are $65. I guess I'll go by myself and spend $65, which I wished I didn't have to spend, but I guess I'll consider the owner of the Canyon Crest Event Center, who is probably a patriot and probably a free market capitalist. And by the way, Dorothy Moon, I don't want to, just so we know, Dorothy Moon is a state representative. She's not a senator.
That's right.
But Dorothy Moon is as good a patriot. She's got more courage than there's very few people in this state that actually care about the people of Idaho. We have so many rhinos running around in this state. It's frightening.
Absolutely. Randy, I really salute you for your efforts, and you're a patriot. Man, I wish more people had your diligence. Thank you so much for your call, and be sure to let us know. Let us know what the dessert is like before they throw you out.
Well, they won't throw me out.
I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
I'm the biggest guy in the world, but I know how to speak. And, I will stand my ground verbally. See ya.
Randy, I respect you. I really do. And we need more people that are going to get involved like him. Did you hear Jen Psaki, the redhead spokesman for their press conferences yesterday? This woman is about as believable as, I don't know. There's so many analogies I could use. But here she is, asked again about the border crisis. And she kind of rolls her eyes and said, oh, the border is not in crisis. It's a circumstance. Woo! Now it's a circumstance. I guess when you have a complete overload of the system and youngsters are in rooms and or cellophane wrapped cages that they're literally laying on top of each other, and teenagers are just literally standing around by the hundreds in these different cages, that's not a crisis. It's a circumstance. Huh. Calls are welcome. 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. And by the way, I mentioned Kamala Harris when we started the program this morning. That woman, there's just something about her. Deanna and I were talking about her the other night when you see her on TV. She's got this little giggly... And I can't stand that. She's so arrogant and so smug. And Miss Giggly Piggly Wiggly looks at the camera, and she was asked if she's going to the border, and she said, oh, no, not now. This is really serious stuff. With the disease factor and all these people coming in on the taxpayer's dime, and she finds reason to giggle at everything? What a pathetic person. I want to remind you about your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. All 7 locations right now celebrating a big spring tire sale. I bet you they still got snow tires, too. And don't forget, stop in and check it out today. Big spring tire sale. All the tires, all the tread designs, all the sizes for all the vehicles. You better believe it. And the best in brake service. I mean, really get your four-wheel Runner ready for traveling. And check out the brakes and the front end alignment, shocks and struts, batteries, all of this and more, including the best in service to you. From James and Buell, Dan on Poline in Twin Falls, Lane and Rupert, Mike and Jerome, Dave on Blue Lakes and Twin, the Twist family in Paul, and my buddy Trent on Overland in Burley. Nobody better. Your Magic Valley, Les Schwab Tire Centers. I tell you, I really have a lot of respect for them. Caller, I've got 1 minute exactly. Real fast. Go.
Yes, good morning, Zeb, again. One thing I see, I've been in Twin Falls here about 20 years, a little more. I think with what's moving in here, Twin Falls in the future will become another sanctuary city. And I see what the games that some of these politicians are playing around here.
Well, you've got some lefties with far-out left thinking that have been and or are currently with the Twin Falls leadership, and I wouldn't put it past what you said. I think I tend to agree with you.
Well, I've seen the move. I've been here long enough, and I've kind of been involved in politics in a way.
Yeah.
And it's coming here.
I would not be at all surprised. And, Tony, I've got to run. I wish I had longer to talk to you about this, but I've got to run to the news. And thank you for your call. God bless you, man. Thank you. We got to get out of here for a few minutes, 7 to be about exact, and turn it over to Sean and then the news. And we're coming back with author and great political analyst Dan Perkins. Don't go away. Zeb at the Ranch. We'll see you in a little bit. Oh my, here we go on a snowy Tuesday, March the 23rd. My goodness sakes, it started snowing about 35, 40 minutes ago. Zeb at the Ranch on this Tuesday, brought to you by our major sponsor, your Magic Valley, Les Schwab Tire Centers, all 7 locations serving you with the best in tires and the best in service. Along with our friends at Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation at 1263 Bennett Avenue, Suite 2 in Burley, helping you get back to being you. Right now, this good word for Western Waste Services.
From the canyons of the Snake River and all across southern Idaho, we're always the shortest struggle. Western Waste Services, we care about our community, our resources, and this free land. Western Waste Services is lending a hand, always at your disposal. Western Waste Services.
Let's talk about cleaning out the basement, the garage, the upstairs, the attic, whatever, and you need a dumpster. Well, call Western Waste. They'll drop a dumpster off at your place. You fill it up, they'll come and get it. They've got dumpsters in various sizes. I need the extra big if I'm going to clean my office out. And the number to call, 734-6969. Always at your disposal, Western Waste Services. You give them a call today. By the way, I know a lot of you are getting ready for a lot of spring work outside. Maybe you better get yourself in shape. Talk about Elite Fitness at 1200 Oakley Avenue in Burley. Nick Greenwell heads up the whole crew at Elite Fitness, and they've got great exercise programs for you. You get a hold of them today at Elite Fitness in Burley. And if you're recouping from a little accident or a surgery, by golly, don't forget our friends at Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation at 1263 Bennett Avenue, Suite 2 in Burley. Again, Nick Greenwell and his very, very educated staff, they know all the exercises and they can help you get back to being you. Call for an appointment at 678-1191, Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation. Don't forget. One final word before we go to our guest this morning, and that's, of course, with our dear friend Joel Heward, his family, and his staff over at Hanson Mortuary at 710 6th Street in Rupert. They really care and provide the families they serve with the best possible support and comfort. And remember this, and it's so true, always upholding the highest ethical standards with unquestioned integrity. Please remember Hanson Mortuary at 710 6th Street in Rupert. The number to call, 436-5636. And Joel Heward also serving you and your family at Morrison Payne Funeral Home on East Main in Burley. Well, I got to tell you, folks, early this morning we had kind of a cancellation and sickness from some of the guests, and we had to revamp our schedule. And this man has been so amenable to helping us. I have nothing but good things to say about. He's an author and also a great political analyst, and I say good morning to my friend Dan Perkins. Dan, nice to have you on the show.
Thank you, Zeb. It's my pleasure.
You're in Florida right now, I would assume, and how far are you from the chaos of the spring breakers that are down in your state?
We live on an island out in the Gulf of Mexico in southwest Florida, out of Fort Myers. We have there's a 6-mile causeway that you have to take from Fort Myers to get out to the island. And there are several island parks on the causeway, and they're pretty full. But most of that activity is taking place on the East Coast, and I won't say it's quiet here, but it's not anywhere near as rowdy as it is on the East Coast.
You know, let's talk about the complexion of what the problem is there with the spring breakers. I know I went to college, and we looked forward to spring break, and yes, I'm going to be very honest, we did some things. We didn't hurt anybody or break up any property or whatever, but we got a little rowdy at times. But the complexion of the spring breakers today, it seems so much different from when I was in college. What would you respond and say?
I would have to agree with you. We went to college at a different time, and today we have the situation where when you think about back when we were in college, we pretty much figured that we were invincible, that nothing could hurt us, and yet these kids still have that attitude, but they see what's going on around them with hundreds of thousands of people dying because of this virus and the shutdowns and restaurants that are closed and bars and schools that are closed and colleges that are closed and classes that are suspended and going to school by television. Their lives have been changed, and I think that they may be a little more boisterous and more vocal than a lot of Americans, but I think a lot of Americans feel the same frustration that they feel, and they're fortunate enough that they can go down to the beach and raise a little hell and have a good time, blow off some steam. I think the whole country needs to blow off some steam because I think we've been locked down unnecessarily for over a year now, and some still very, very strict in California, for example. It's taking a tremendous toll on people, and the Center for Disease Control has reported that the incidence of anxiety and depression are now 1 in 4 adults in the United States admit to having anxiety or severe depression, and that's because of what's happened to to our country, and I believe again unnecessarily so, but we're paying a very high price for it.
Dan, let's get right into that where you said blowing off steam. I'm going to blow off some steam this morning because I am very steamed at what I would term, and you can correct me if anytime you want to and chastise me for my verbiage, but I think this administration in just a little more than 2 months has shown the ultimate in stupidity and a lack of caring and a lack of planning. I don't think we've ever had an administration take over with executive orders and absolute left-wing thinking, socialist thinking, that has driven this country this far to the left and this far in danger in 2 months. I've never seen anything like it.
I I would totally agree with that. I would put a little finer point on that for you. Not that I disagree with what you're saying. In a matter of less than 60 days, we have found the American people have said by a 73% margin, they've said that they don't want that there are problems. They have problems with immigration, and they have severe problems with what's going on at the border. 75% of Americans say they want identification for people to vote. 65% of the people are opposed to what Biden did in the pipeline. 55% think they pay more than their share of taxes. They don't need a tax increase. What's amazing about all those numbers is all those are agenda items that Joe Biden ran on, and the American people are objecting to them in an overwhelming majority. And yet we've got this person who's supposedly the president, who we hope is going to have a press conference on Thursday. But I'm telling you that the buzz around Washington is that it's already been pre-recorded.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to be played, and it's been edited. So we'll see what happens, whether it's live or not. They couldn't have picked the worst set of circumstances to delay a press conference, because they have shut out the media, including the mainstream media, and they're really barking at the White House. That's going to be the first issue on the agenda, and they're going to come after him hard and fast, and I don't know that Joe can handle it, which is one of the reasons why I wrote the most recent commentary, and the working title of that commentary is which is worse for the country, impeachment or an Article 25 replacement of the president. And I think there's a possibility. Joe's made some really, really bad mistakes. The border's one. Calling Putin a killer is another. And he can't figure out who's the president, whether it's Kamala or him.
Yeah.
If he doesn't do well at the press conference, I expect to see a loud cry for him to resign, that he's not capable of being president. And I don't think he'll do that. So the question will become, will Kamala Harris invoke the 25th Amendment? And I think she might.
Okay, but therein lies a problem I think is going to be the most disastrous for this country. This woman is not smart. This woman is smug. This woman is arrogant, and this woman absolutely is evil with her thoughts about how she would twist and turn more socialism into the agenda. I'm scared. I don't mean it in a, oh dear, I hope she doesn't hit me attitude. I'm scared for my family, my situation, my retirement, everything, if she takes over the White House. Tell me I'm wrong.
No, I don't think you're wrong at all. I have the same fears. I look at what's going on here, and remember, just to take and refresh your memory, this is a woman who spent $42 million to win the Democratic nomination and never survived to the first primary, never got one vote from any person in this country in the presidential race. And she resigned. She left the race, $42 million spent, not one delegate. They rejected her. And what's amazing about it is that the black community rejected her. She couldn't gain any support in the black community. So this is a woman who was not successful as a presidential candidate, didn't even make it to the primaries, left, and could wind up being president of the United States.
It goes without saying that the socialist agenda is creeping and crawling and slithering into every aspect of our life. And let's just start, first of all, with energy. And I want to get into the border and all kinds of topics with you this morning. But energy, with the green energy and the solar energy, the wind turbines, etc., Dan, that is the least thought out premise that I've ever seen perpetrated to the American people. Whether it's agriculture, which will die, whether it's the transportation across this country, which will die, whether it's people being able to get to their jobs, which much will die. We need fossil fuels. We can't just all of a sudden turn the switch off and say we're going to go to green cars and green energy. We are not prepared, even for your smaller towns, as say 5,000 to 6,000 people, not enough charging stations, and being forced to buy and finance $60,000 electric cars. What kind of absolute insanity is this anyway?
It goes back to something you said earlier. In fact, I'm writing a commentary about it today. What you're talking about is Democrats who are passing legislation, making laws, and have not truly considered what the long-term ramifications of those laws are. We went through this winter storm in Texas where at least a quarter of the windmills couldn't turn, and the solar panels were covered with ice and snow. But that's not the real part of the story. Yeah, we lost power. But what people don't know is that the blades on wind turbines are not recyclable. They have to be buried, and they're currently being buried not too far from you. And they have to be chopped up into 3 sections, and then they're buried under the ground. And the Department of Energy says, well, we have 800 wings buried now. We may have to start dealing with 3,000 to 8,000 per year on the replacement. There are hundreds of millions of solar panels in garbage dumps across the nation because they've gone past their useful life and they have to be replaced. So they haven't thought about how we're going to deal with the aftermath of the green energy of disposal of solar panels and turbines. That's not in their bailiwick to want to discuss. They just want to build more and more and more. So your idea that they have not planned out, they haven't thought out. I mean, if you go back to the border situation as an example, you have people who are in charge of Homeland Security and other organizations that deal with immigration who have no experience in leading that, as they used to say, that portfolio of those various departments. And yet they're making decisions on an arbitrary basis for actually one reason, Jeb. I think they're making all of these decisions as a personal mission to undo everything that Donald Trump did that did what Biden and Obama did in their 8 years. This is a personal vendetta against everything that the principal reason they want to shut down the pipelines is because Donald Trump helped them get built and make us energy independent. And they do not want us to be energy dependent because they want us to have to pay a higher price for natural gas and gasoline so that they can convince people to switch to non-fossil fuel.
We are not ready. And I'll go toe-to-toe with anybody that considers themselves knowledgeable about this. We are not even close to being ready. If you want to put it on a scale of going from fossil fuels to complete green energy programs, electric cars, whatever, we're not even close. We're not even a percentage ready for the grid that's going to have to sustain all these cars and vehicles. The transportation industry is not ready with the changeover to these big, heavy 18-wheel trucks, 24-wheel trucks on the highways. They can't do it. And farming and agriculture absolutely is not ready for that change. And we're talking about a crisis when they start taking away fossil fuels. We're going to see prices go through the roof, and we're going to see millions of hungry, starving people.
Yeah. Elon Musk said that the current electrical grid in the United States isn't sufficient to handle just the cars that he's making. His cars only.
That's right.
And so, again, and if you look at if you want to replace oil and natural gas and coal-powered power plants with solar and wind, the physical square feet necessary to produce the equivalent megawatts of power, it's enormous. I mean, it's hundreds of acres. And so, again, this is an idea that hasn't been really thought out, hasn't been proven to be true, and yet we're on a path that we're going to spend tens, if not hundreds of billions of dollars to try and do this. And here we have a bill coming from the Congress of about $3 trillion for infrastructure and tax increase.
Yeah.
And they can't get it through the Senate with the regular 60 vote margins, that they're going to try and do the same process they did on the last COVID relief bill with reconciliation to try and get it passed on a simple majority. But they got a problem. Manchin from West Virginia says he's not going to vote for it, and that takes it 49-50. And Kamala doesn't get a chance to vote because it's not a tie. So it could all come tumbling down on under the influence of Joe Manchin in West Virginia.
Absolutely. Dan, we've got a caller with a question or a comment, and after that, I've got a little commercial break, and I want to tell the audience we're going to have an extended session with Dan this morning. He's been very gracious to stay with us a little longer. Caller, quickly, you're on the air. Go ahead, please.
Well, you say that they don't know, they haven't planned out anything, and I think they know exactly what they're doing. I think that the Chinese are so involved in our government, in our society, that the Chinese are controlling this administration, the Democrats, whether or not they're willingly doing it or not. I mean, these people have friends, neighbors, and family live in this country who will suffer. These elected officials, these Democrats. And you say to yourself, they can't be that damn stupid. But the Chinese stand to gain everything if they take us down. Electric cars, it's just everything about it is about the Chinese. Right now there's 20,000 broke down windmills in this country, and the toxic waste of these blades is unbelievable, let alone disposing of solar panels and batteries from cars. I'll hang up.
Respond to the caller, please, Dan.
Well, he's right in pretty much everything he's talking about. The Chinese have tremendous influence in this economy. We, as typical citizens, are not really in tune as to how much influence they do have. But I think we're getting more information and understanding how much influence they have, how much they control our economy. And as it relates to the pollution and the waste, which we already talked about, it's a problem. But they're not addressing it. It's if you dare oppose the Green New Deal, you're a racist. That's the answer for the left for everything that they disagree with what we have to say. We're racist, and so we don't understand that the idea that America is a bottomless pit of money to pay for everybody and everything. We're talking 100,000 illegals coming into the United States every month and accelerating. And I'm saying, when I found out that even if they're tested at the border and they have COVID-19, they're referred to a hospital.
That's right.
But they don't have to go to the hospital. And so they're being released back into our community to infect those people who haven't received the vaccine, to infect those people across this country. Those people that die because of that action the blood is on the hands of Joe Biden.
You know, I want to pursue this a lot more in depth in just a moment. Stand with me, if you would, just for a second. I've got to do some commercials, and we'll be back with great political analyst Dan Perkins in just a moment. Don't forget, I'm going to talk about some really good food, really delicious food at Denny's Restaurant, America's Diner at 611 North Overland in Burley, and also another location at 291 Pole Line Road in Twin Falls. They've got a whole bunch of new additions to the menu, including the Big Dipper melt, tender pot roast with melted Swiss cheese. Oh, knock your boots off, delicious, along with great new desserts. And we're all going to get a chance at them, you betcha, on our lunch bunch that's going to be coming up on April 1st. Zeb's Lunch Bunch returns to Denny's Restaurant, America's Diner, on April 1st. Be there, help support us, and enjoy the great food at Denny's Restaurant in Burley. Also want to remind you about our friends at Cameron and Siemens Insurance. Insurance. Todd and the crew are always there to serve you with the best of life insurance, health insurance, retirement planning, and employee benefits. And it's so easy to let them serve you. Just make a call, make an appointment, and there they are, ready and responsive to your needs and devoted to serving you. Cameron and Siemens Insurance, Highway 24 in Rupert. That number to call, 436-4424. That number again, 436-4424. Cameron and Siemens Insurance, Highway 24 in Rupert. We're on the phone with a gentleman down in Florida, and he's been on my program many, many times. I have the utmost respect for his political opinions. Dan Perkins. Dan, I don't know what to say about this border other than this, and then I'll let you have it. I've been down on the border 3 times. I have very good friends that are ranchers on the border in Arizona and in Texas. And it's absolutely shameful and pathetic that these people that are citizens of the United States cannot leave their homes in the morning without taking protection, i.e. a .357 or a Winchester, and making sure that their families have protection inside their home. They're living in fear, and they are taxpayers of this United States of America, and nobody is helping them.
Very true. It's very true. And I have great empathy for those people along the entire length of the border, all the way up to California, that we have a government that hasn't figured out, as I said earlier, other than they want to get rid of everything that Donald Trump did. And they're trying to go back in time. They're trying to go back to the Obama-Biden administration, everything that they're talking about. But when we were here before, we did this, and this, we're going to do it again. And so I look at it from the standpoint that it's a problem. And as much as the president said everybody should be allowed to come, that's not true. That's not true. We have a legal entry process, and if we have 100,000 people that came across the border illegally in the month of February, and we've got over 7,000 children in retention centers throughout the Southwest. We've gotten so bad that we're going back to the Obama era and catch and release. Let the people cross the border, we arrest them. And now we are so stupid, and I use that word importantly, we are so stupid that we're saying to the illegal immigrants that are coming into the country, when you get finally settled, you have to make a court date. You have to make the court date. Well, there are 2 chances, slim and none, and they're both out of town. They're not going to do that. They don't show up to their court hearings when they were scheduled for them by Border and Customs. The idea that they're going to do it themselves and they want to self-impose their court appearances, that's not going to happen. The person who thought that up is an idiot and should be fired from the government. And anybody who else supported it should be fired from the government. You cannot control your border by giving to the illegal coming across the border the decision as to whether or not they're going to file for a hearing. And we know that 90% of those people who do show up for a hearing are not granted asylum, and they're supposed to be deported. Do we deport them? No. The point is that we have a political process that says if we allow more people to come across the border, they will look to us as Democrats, as the Father Abraham that saved them, that gave them the opportunity to come into the United States, get all this stuff free, so we get them registered as quickly as we can as citizens and as voters, and they will vote Democratic for the rest of their life. That's the bottom line.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And here, I want you to expand on this. I honestly about took one of my boots off the other night and threw it through my 60-inch screen TV when they had a story on there of our tax dollars, yours, mine, and everybody's, to the tune of over $86 million, to where the Biden administration is paying for hotel rooms for these illegal aliens when they cross the border into the United States. We have homeless homeless, and we have homeless veterans living on the street, living on defecated pavement, and they can't afford anything, and we're giving money to illegal aliens to stay in the Ritz. This is insanity.
Yes, absolutely correct. It is. It's just mind-boggling. We got 500,000 homeless veterans in the United States. Don't have a place to go, and yet we're spending, as you said, $83 million and probably more to provide housing for free for people who came into this country illegally. The American people need to understand that the government has chosen illegals over their own citizens, and they need to understand what that means. And for men and women who went and fought and got injured and did their time, for the government to abandon them in favor of illegals coming across the border is absolutely, in the Catholic Church, which I belong to, the mortal sin. It's the worst sin. And but I think, Zeb, there are an awful lot of people who have given up. They don't think there's anything that they can do, no matter how much they're angry about it, no matter how much they talk about it with their friends and neighbors. There doesn't seem they don't think that they have any power anymore. Is that the bureaucrats in Washington have decided what we're going to do, whether or not that people accept it. You know, when we see that 72%, 73% of the American likely voters say they want voter ID, the Democrats on the left said, no, we don't need voter ID. You don't need a driver's license or identification to be able to vote. So the things that are going on is that the politicians, the deep staters, primarily the left and left-leaning, are working to destroy this country. And they may have the power for 2 years, but I'm afraid by the time, if we can get control of the House and or the Senate in the 2022 election, I'm concerned, Zeb, it's too late.
Well, I will say this, and I want you to chime in on what I'm about to address. If the Democrats push through H.R. 1, which takes away IDs at voting and really helps amplify mail-in balloting and everything else, and no IDs, we're done. We're toast, because they'll own the elections, and we might as well just pack it in.
Yes, I absolutely agree with you. Absolutely agree with you. And it is what we're seeing is that the Democratic Party no longer has any faith, trust, or belief in the Constitution of the United States. They're trying to determine the law based on what they want to do. I've studied the Constitution. I did for 25 years. I was a merit badge counselor for the Boy Scouts of America. And one of was the controlling documents, the Constitution and the Bill of Rights. And I'm telling you, there is no basis for the House to impeach a retired president, and no basis by which the Senate should have conducted the trial. And yet they did. Democrats and Republicans. Now, the Democrats got all the votes they needed to pass the impeachment in the House. But in the Senate, it was unconstitutional to even conduct a trial. In fact, the chief judge under the Constitution, the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, is supposed to be the trial judge in presidential impeachments, and he refused to serve. That tells you that he, as the chief judge of the Supreme Court, believed what the House was doing and the Senate was doing was unconstitutional. And yet, while we were disappointed, it went ahead anyway. And the Republicans, they didn't get the majority that they needed, the 65, 66 votes. But I'm more angry that it took place more than anything else, because it shouldn't have taken place because of what the Constitution says. They don't care about due process. They don't care about anything as it relates to the Constitution if it doesn't fit their narrative and what they want to do. And
I agree.
That's what they're doing.
I agree.
They're abandoning the Constitution and putting us all in peril.
Let me ask you this. You and I are of the same age bracket. So I'm going to go back in time in my memory. Never in my adult life do I ever remember the American media on American soil being held back and told they can't go take pictures or they can't write stories about what's taking place at our border. I don't ever remember that there was a dictatorship that said, no, you can't in a free press go and report on this story. Tell me if I'm wrong.
Right. I won't say that you're 100% wrong, I would say, and I'm as old as you, or maybe a little older. I was just born at the end of the Second World War. I don't know what the press's availability was to the Chinese and Japanese and Asian internment camps that Roosevelt put up in the Second World War. I don't know how much accessibility the media had or even wanted to go look at it. Maybe they didn't want to look at it.
Yeah, but I'm talking about on American soil, Dan.
I don't know of any other time.
But, Dan, I'm talking about on American soil. I don't ever remember the media being told no.
Yes, you're absolutely right. I can't think of anything. And I know we're short on time, but I just have one issue that I want to bring to your attention and to your audience's attention, which I think is important. They may or may not be aware that yesterday the city of Evanston, Illinois, passed a reparation ordinance, and they allotted $400,000 to be paid to black citizens of Evanston, Illinois. What's important to understand, Zeb, is that Evanston is a city of approximately 75,000 people, of which 12,000 are black. The $400,000 was broken down in increments of $25,000, which means out of 12,000 blacks in the city of Evanston, Evanston, Illinois, 16 black people are going to get reparations. 16. I think that's going to cause a tremendous stir in the black community.
I do too, and
and it's a bad decision.
Well, I think it's the tip of the iceberg, and the Titanic is steaming towards that tip of the iceberg, and it's going to sink all of us. When we start making reparations to black families, then we're going to hear about the hue and cry about Mexican families and other races, other names, etc. This is just the tip of the iceberg, and I think it's going to cause more than segregated society. It's going to cause an outright civil war between the people that don't want to pay this and the people that think they are demanding and rewarding of money that their family should have. I just don't see how this is going to be good at all.
I agree. I said to somebody I was talking to this morning, nobody's talking about, when you're talking about reparation, nobody's talking about the 600,000 men who gave their lives in the Civil War so that blacks could be free.
Amen.
Nobody's talking about reparations for those 600,000 people. And I happen to be one of those people, is a descendant of a Civil War veteran. And I've got his discharge papers to prove it. My point is that we're ignoring the 600,000 men who gave their lives so that we could have a free America and the blacks could be free and no longer built under slavery. Yet they're not being considered at all in terms of reparation.
Let me ask you one final thought, and it kind of all dovetails together. Biden is pushing for another $3 trillion bill for infrastructure that's going to have a lot of different caveats and a lot of different hidden sweetness for various projects. Where's that money going to come from? You know the answer. It's going to come from you and I with increased taxes at a time when businesses are just able to open their doors. What's this going to do to America, in your opinion?
Well, I think that that's a great question. Let me put it from my perspective. The stimulus bill is smoke. The important thing that the Democrats want is the taxes that are going to be attached to it. They want the tax bill. They want to increase the taxes on people over $400,000 and all these things. So they don't really give a crap about infrastructure. They want the tax bills, and so they can attach the tax bill to the infrastructure bill and try and get it through under reconciliation, which only creates a simple majority in the Senate and not the 60 votes that will be required. So I think that the reparation, the bill for infrastructure, $3 trillion, I agree with you. It's going to, but we have added over $6 trillion of debt in the last 12 months.
Wow.
Another 3 is 9, so we'll have added $9 trillion in debt. Because the taxes that we generate, even with the new taxes, are not going to be enough to pay for the $9 trillion that we've added to our deficit and our debt. So I think that it's a misdirection play. They're talking about infrastructure, putting people to work, yada, yada, yada. But the real thing they want is the tax bill that's going to be attached to it.
Absolutely.
Mark my words.
Absolutely. Dan, please take just a minute. We've got one caller before we have to sign off. Caller, quickly, you're on the air. Go ahead, please.
Yes, good morning, Dan. Listening to this reparations thing, I think it's just another movement to create more rioting in every city in this country. I'd like to know what your opinion is.
It's clear, in my opinion, thank you for the call, it's clearly division-driven. They want to continue to divide the country, and reparation is one way to really separate the country, because so many people do not want this and cannot figure out a fair way, even if you wanted it, to pay it. And as I said, the 600,000 men who gave their lives, white men who gave their lives, and some black men gave their lives so that the blacks could be free. Without those 600,000 men giving up their lives to support the North and the Constitution, we wouldn't have to be talking about reparation, because we still have slavery in the United States, or it would have been worn out its usefulness. I just think that the caller's right. This is an attempt to further divide the country and to create tension between the races, all because they want to cause disruption so that they can focus on the real things they want, which is control of the government.
Absolutely. Dan, I mean this. It's very heartfelt when I say thank you for your time this morning. Thank you for the change in the schedule. Thank you for letting us elongate this segment so that we could get more information from you. Dan Perkins, author and political analyst in Florida. God bless you, sir, and please come back soon.
Thank you, sir. It's always a pleasure.
Thank you very much. I learn a lot when you talk to Dan. He's got great insight and writes some great articles, and we really appreciate Dan Perkins from Florida. Right now it's time for the weather, and the weather brought to you by Phillips Oaks, Goodwin, Crane, and Company. They are straight shooters. They are the professionals, and they can help you, your family, and your business. Providing accounting services to the Mini-Cassia area and beyond for well over 50 years. The very best of tax return preparation, tax planning, business consulting, bookkeeping services, retirement planning. The list goes on and on. They are the professionals serving you with offices in Burley and Rupert. Phillips Oaks, Goodwin, Crane, and Company. And right now, here's Gina with the weather.
A few more snow showers for this morning. Then we're expecting mostly cloudy skies by the afternoon and a high of about 47. Slight breeze out of the west at about 10 miles an hour. For tonight, mostly cloudy skies, hopefully gradually clearing with a low right around 25. By tomorrow, looks like partly cloudy skies, high of 46. Slight chance of snow showers for tomorrow night with a low of about 32. Then by Thursday, guess what? More snow showers in the forecast, mostly cloudy skies, and a high of 43. That's a look at your weather.
I appreciate it, Gina. Brought to everybody by our friends, and they are working to help you. Phillips Oaks, Goodwin, Crane, and Company. Boy, they're busy this time of the year. You can bet on it. Providing accounting services to the Mini-Cassia area and beyond. Believe me, they are good at what they do. With offices at 1710 Overland Avenue in Burley and 625th Street in Rupert. The professionals, Phillips Oaks, Goodwin, Crane, and Company. Wow. I really appreciated the conference with Dan Perkins. And calls are welcome. I'd like you to talk about anything we discussed. Give me a jingle, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Give us a jingle. Want to also remind you quickly while I'm waiting for your call, Patterson's Electronics. You know, when it comes to electronics, I've got to ask a bunch of questions, you know, and everything, because I don't understand all the gizmos and everything else of electronics, but these people do at Patterson's Electronics, 421 East Main in Burley. Curtis and Lorena, believe me, they know all about the home theater systems, video surveillance cameras, car stereos and speakers, all the complete sound systems, and of course all the best of TVs from Samsung, Sony, Toshiba, LG TVs, and they've even got a brand new section in their store with dehydrated food. Absolutely, and at prices you can't afford to pass up. You better get in there today. They're open Monday through Saturday, 9 to 6. Patterson's Electronics, 421 East Main in Burley. The number to call, 678-6997. All right, your turn. Give me a jingle on the landline, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Some of this cancel culture, I want to get into this just a little bit more and have you respond to it. It's just getting absolutely ridiculous, and it's causing more racism and segregating in our country than ever before. Think about where you were and what you were doing a year ago today. And what were the top stories? Naturally, the COVID-19 was the top story. But did you remember any of the racist rants and segregating ideas and the cancel culture a year ago like what it is today? The words that we can no longer say that some consider offensive. Offensive words? Mom and Dad? Merry Christmas? Or even like what's going on, and I mentioned this earlier, with Cigna Insurance Company. They're really cracking down on free speech within their company, saying, you can't say if you're going to brown bag it for lunch. Oh, no, that has racial overtones, so you can't say that. And they're even questioning people when they come in for employment at Cigna as to whether they're Christians or not. And they're actually checking out their Christianity, and they may not be hired because of their faith. I've never seen anything like this. And with the perpetration of the critical race theory, it's a concept that's going into the schools. Very evil concept. If you hear that your school has even thought about or is promoting anything with critical race theory, which is the denigration of the various races and also the disdain of the United States of America, tell people, call me, and we'll put it on the air and go after it and attack it. It's absolutely garbage. It's filthy, racist garbage that is trying to segregate and destroy our American society. And they're gaining a toehold every day. More schools, more businesses. This has got to stop. Calls welcome. Give me a jingle. Come on, don't weaken on me, folks. 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Give me a jingle. By the way, I mentioned, I think it was last hour, about the great big March Madness that's taking place at Redder's Showcase. Hello, over at Redder's Showcase. Holy moly. They've got some super great buys. They've got a great selection of freezers in stock, starting at just $239 for a 5 cubic foot chest freezer. And they've got refrigerators starting at just $399. A great selection of all the Whirlpool, Amana, Maytag KitchenAid appliances. Woo! I'm telling you, great buys for their March Madness. And they've got over $6,000 in prizes. Be sure and stop in, and they're going to have the winners announced on the prizes March 27th. You'd better get in there today at Redder's Showcase, 2611 Overland in Burley, March Madness, and save money. Absolutely. All right, calls are welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. You want to know how twisted and absolutely ridiculous politics is and how much of a turncoat society it is? Well, I'll get to that in just a moment. Right now, caller, good morning, you're on the air.
Well, let me tell you, I just can't imagine that across this nation, the people that voted, I say it every day, I do, but it's important that we know it's true, that 80 million people feel the same way we did, and they know the election was stolen, and now we're getting kicked in the teeth, and they know it, but they can't blame any of this. The price of gas, the border, everything else, the Green New Deal being shoved down our throats, it's all on the Democratic Party. No, everybody knows Biden is a joke. He ain't running nothing. He can't even walk up a set of stairs. I mean, think about how goofy he is. I mean, he probably is just, in his deluded mind, he probably just thinks it's fun, the fact that he was actually elected president, and his name will be in the history books. I mean, it's deplorable, the fact that he is even anywhere close to the Oval Office. But the insanity behind him is terrible. But it's all on his head, just like Dan said. The blood is on his hands. And so there is proof. And so I just got to believe that across this nation there is so much fury and trepidation because of this administration that they are doing what they need to do. It's just like the meeting tonight over there. I'm going to be there. And it just gathering together and talking amongst ourselves and figuring out a way. There's 37 states that have Republican legislatures, and there'll probably be more in the next election. And I'll tell you what, it's going to be hard to stop 37 states who are furious.
Well, I agree with everything you're saying, and like I told Robert Griffin earlier this morning, talking about that meeting going on tonight at the First Christian Church in Rupert, United We Stand meeting, I want him to call, I want you to call tomorrow and let me know what's going on. You know, for somebody that gets up at 3:30, quarter to 4 in the morning, I've got to be a little careful about how late I stay out at night, and I'm going to need your help, but I will support it any way I can. We are looking at dangerous, deadly times in this country, much more so than ever before, with a leadership, unquote, that absolutely is ridiculous, spineless, and socialistic. And so I am absolutely supportive of 80 million, 85 million, I don't care how many million people standing up and saying enough is enough.
Well, if you didn't know better before, you know better now that the election was stolen and what they are doing to us. And I'm going to tell you, believing in global warming, I mean, these people will shut down the very thing that feeds them, and whether or not they know better or not, I don't know. I can't imagine that anybody is that stupid.
Well,
you cannot shut down the free market capitalism of this country and expect to survive it.
Amen. Amen. Randy, I'm on your page, man. Bottom of the page, it says Randy and Zeb. God bless you, man. I got to run to the news, but thank you for your call. Do appreciate it. Thank you. Wow, we are headed for the news, and be that as it may, and we'll be back with Dr. History at 10:06. Oh my, here we go, rolling into hour number 3 on this Tuesday, March 23rd. Zeb at the Ranch, brought to you by our major sponsor, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. All 7 locations serving you with a big spring tire sale and the best in service. Along with our friends also at Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation at 1263 Bennett Avenue, Suite 2 in Burley, helping you get back to being you. Want to remind you, there's big things going on over at Lee's Furniture, Floors, and More. Just kind of pull up, park your car, get out, walk in the store, and go, whoa, holy moly, they've got everything in here for the beautification and the comfortization of your home. I mean, head back to the recliners. That's my favorite part. And just look at the great big herd. They got a herd of recliners. They've got recliners for tall people, short people, real thin people, and people like me. And you got to try one on, see if it fits, and voila, you've got yourself some comfort. Stop into Lee's Furniture, Floors, and More and check out all the window coverings, 40% off. They've got all great big sale going on the mattresses in stock. All of this and more with Jeff and a very knowledgeable staff at Lee's Furniture, Floors, and More. Open Monday through Friday, 9 to 5, Saturdays 10 to 4 at 459 Overland Avenue in Burley. Lee's Furniture, Floors, and More. You know, I saw it again last night. I was watching on one of the channels, great musicians, and boy, I would love to be able to play the guitar like some of these folks. Well, I know a man that can teach you. I'm considering buying a guitar and getting back into the lessons, and Marcus Meek Guitar Lessons, absolutely, at 1459 Conant Avenue in Burley. Number to call, this man that knows all the different styles of guitar music, 312-9093. Write that number down, 312-9093. He took a little vacation away from music lessons, and he is back Monday through Thursday, 2 to 6 p.m. Marcus Meek Guitar Lessons, 312-9093. Call him today. Right now it's time for one of my favorite segments, and unfortunately he's not in the studio today. He is doing this via the telephone, and we say good morning and God blessings to your wife. I hope all is going well. Dr. History, good morning.
Good morning, Zeb. Glad to be here again today. A little snowy out there, a little bit of a blizzard.
It is that, my friend, but it's never a blizzard. It's always sunny and blue skies when you're on the radio. Tell us what we're going to talk about with Dr. History today.
All right. Before I get going, I want to say hi to about 3 people. I want to say hi to Ken in Sacramento. He is retired Air Force. And in the last month, he has listened to 150 of our stories this past month. And he also sent me some information about a relative of his that was involved with the Sutter's Mill and the discovery of gold and things like that. So I appreciate getting that from Ken. And he's invited me over to give me a tour through Sutter's Fort over there. Dave, who sent me some information about the hole in the wall, and Todd, who sent me some information who talked about the buffalo jumps, and he lives up in Ontario, and he, Zeb, are you hearing me okay?
You're coming through. I'm just letting you do all the talking.
Okay. Anyway, Todd up in Ontario, he gave me the information about a guy named John Ware. Hang on, Zeb, I'm having a little trouble with my phone here.
Yeah, if you're on a speakerphone, don't use the speakerphone, Ken, please.
Okay, let me go to something else here.
Yeah, because hurry. Yeah, just don't use the speakerphone. It just absolutely doesn't come in good. Go ahead, please.
Yeah, I was getting some feedback there. I couldn't hear you, and I couldn't hear me.
Okay.
So anyway, this month is honoring Women's History Month, and so I've been talking about some of the Native American, the Indian women, and the difficulties they had, and also some of those that played a major part in helping
the colonists and, Lewis and Clark, things like that. So today I'm going to talk about the difficulties they had when raising a family. I mean, we have, we all have families, and we all know there's challenges, but they had kind of a different set of challenges. But, the women usually gathered themselves for the ritual of when they had gave birth, and for unusually difficult labors or when the time was right for these certain necessary ceremonies. Sometimes they would actually call a medicine man in to give special potions or prayers. But basically, it was the women who performed the practical ceremonial duties that got the infant ready for life and kind of gave it its status as an individual. And these jobs were heavy with meaning at each new birth. These rituals were very important to the existence of the women in early America. Now, being a mother and raising a healthy family was the ultimate achievement for the women in these North American Indian societies. There was no confusion about the role of a woman. Many women attained distinction as craftswomen or medical practitioners. Some of them even became shamans. But this in no way affected their role as the bearers and the raisers of the children. But the women's lives flowed into what they saw as the natural order of the universe. They accepted the role in which they were an extension of the spirit mother and the key to the continuation of their race. So they knew how important this was. But part of these deeply religious feelings was the practical consideration that many children were needed to help with the work, to take care of the parents as they grew older. And back then, Zeb, children were basically a couple's savings account and insurance. So the more children they had, the better they would be taken care of in their old age. That was basically their insurance, whatever you want to call it, for old age.
Mm-hmm.
Now, most Indian mothers welcomed each baby, whether it was a boy or a girl, and they just wanted to have a good child that was strong and healthy. But it is kind of universal for a woman carrying a child for 9 long months whether her labor will produce a son or a daughter. Now, out on the Great Plains, when an Omaha woman wanted to know what the sex of her coming child was going to be, she would take a bow and a strap, what they called a burden strap, that the women used to carry burdens on their back, and she would take that to a tent of a friend who had a child who was still too young to talk. She would offer these two things to the baby. If the little baby chose the bow, then the unborn would be a boy. If the child paid more attention to this burden strap, then the coming baby would be a daughter. So there are some societies, particularly those in the far north, where life was really hard, and they did not welcome an abundance of daughters. But it is said that the Huron, who lived north of Lake Ontario, they actually rejoiced more at the birth of a girl because the girls grew into women who had more babies. And the Huron wanted many descendants to care for them in their old age and protect them from their enemies. Now, in the Hopi, in the Southwest, where the status of women was really high, a woman wanted to give birth to as many girls as possible. And it was through her daughters that a Hopi woman's home and clan were carried on. Now, a boy was okay and not unwelcome, but when he got married, his children would belong to the house and clan of his wife. Now, generally, the sex of the baby was left to fate, but among the Zuni, if they wanted to have a girl child, they went to visit something they called the Mother Rock. And the pregnant woman would scrape tiny pieces of the rock into a vase and place it in one of the holes in this rock. Then she prayed that a daughter would be born who would be good, beautiful, and virtuous. And if by chance a boy was born, the Mother Rock was not blamed. Instead, it was believed that the heart of one of the parents was, quote, not good. So, Zeb, you and I both had girls and boys, so I'm hoping we were both good. In those early days, infant mortality was alarmingly high, and many women died in childbirth. perspective, mothers used everything at their disposal to make sure they had a safe delivery and a healthy child. But, you know, the medicine, the procedures were so primitive. They relied on measures which today we would call superstition or magic.
Dr. History, let me interrupt you for a minute, Dr. History. Doctor, let me interrupt you just for a second. You've got to hold your phone perfectly still and hold it up by your mouth. It's too far down by your chin, I think, and we're getting too much fuzz. That's according to the studio, so please help us.
Okay. Is that better right there?
Yes, it is. Don't move.
Okay. All right. I'll hold still. Okay. So anyway, pregnant women were warned against looking at or making fun of somebody that was deformed or injured or blind for fear that their babies would come out with this same defect. And being in the presence of dying people and animals was also unhealthy for both the mother and the baby. Now, among the Flathead Indians of Montana, neither the mother nor the father could go out of the lodge backwards. If they did, the baby would be born breech. And neither one of them, the prospective parents, were allowed to look out of a window or a door. If they wanted to see what was going on outside, they had to go all the way outside and look around, because if they didn't, they suspected that the baby would be stillborn. Now, there were also taboos on certain foods, some restrictions for pregnant Indian women. They were not to eat the feet of an animal, because if they did, the baby would come out feet first. They were not to eat berries, because if they did, it would cause a birthmark on the baby, and liver would darken the child's skin. So those were foods that they weren't supposed to eat. Now, the Lumi Indians of what is now Northwest Washington, they were a fairly wealthy group whose home on the coastlands offered a big variety of foods. But this enabled them to place some taboos on a lot of foods, including halibut, which was believed to cause white blotches on the baby's skin. They were not supposed to eat steelhead salmon, which caused weak ankles. Trout produced birth defects. A seagull would produce a crybaby. The prospective mother also had to not eat blue cod, which could cause convulsions in the child. Venison would lead to absent-mindedness, and beaver would cause the baby to come out with an abnormally large head. So those were some of the taboos for the people up in the Northwest Washington area. Now, among some of the groups with less food, the restrictions were limited to just certain parts of animals. Pregnant women were warned that eating tongue could cause the baby's tongue to be too big. They were not to eat the tail of an animal because that would cause problems during labor. There were a lot of foods that could not be eaten, and there was some evidence that Indian women years ago, like present-day women, did have cravings for special foods during pregnancy. Zeb, did you find that at all?
Well, I've never been pregnant, so I can't say.
Okay. I don't mean you had a craving. I meant your wife.
She loved ice cream. She ate a lot of ice cream, and we've got a lot of feedback on the line here. I can barely hear you, but Deanne really had a craving for ice cream and I think donuts for a while.
Yeah, my wife liked ice cream from, I can't remember the name of the store, but yeah, she liked ice cream too. So anyway, there's a story about an Iroquois, a pregnant woman out that tribe. She wanted to have some Indian corn. Her husband learned that there was a trading post that had a little bit of this corn. So he set off on horseback for the 100-mile ride. He brought back as much corn as he could, filled in that only filled up his hat. But when he came back, he was walking and carrying his saddle because he had to trade his horse for the corn.
Oh, my.
Now, they also, squirrels and ducks were something that the women craved in the first stages of their pregnancy. And the husband, in every case, would go out and spare no pains or trouble until he had gotten a squirrel or a duck. And the more a man does for his wife, the more he's esteemed, particularly by the women of the tribe. Now, each tribe had certain herbs and teas that were believed to relieve the aches and pains and promote the health of the prospective mothers. But besides the herbal medicines, avoiding certain foods, and watching their own behavior, some Indian women had to be careful not to become victims of witchcraft during their pregnancy. So that was another thing they had to be careful for. Now, some of the midwives were very skilled at their profession. They were able to turn a baby in the womb to ensure a safer and easier delivery. They were also good psychologists, knowing just how to talk to calm and comfort a woman who was suffering a great deal. Now, although women generally gathered together for the birth of babies, in some North American tribes, the expectant mother had to face the birth alone. Women in the Caddo group tribe near the border of what is now Mississippi and Arkansas, they were instructed when the time of their delivery came to go to the bank of the nearest river to build a shelter, and they gave birth all alone, and then they were to immediately wade into the stream, even if they had to break the ice. They washed themselves and the baby, and then returned home to continue on with their normal lives. Now, a lot of the native North American cultures insisted that following birth, both mother and newborn had to stay in seclusion for a period of time ranging from a few days to as long as 3 months. The Nez Perce women in North Idaho entered a special underground lodge 2 or 3 months before the baby was expected and remained for 2 weeks after the birth. Now, for the most part, women in seclusion were well cared for, but, life for them was hard, and no doubt they welcomed the time to recuperate and not worry about other children they might have or cooking or cleaning, whatever. But in some of the Indian societies, a great deal of the ritual accompanied each birth. Now, for example, the Hopi infant began life in a society where they had elaborate religious ceremonials dominated the village life. And each new baby was immediately immersed in this rich, sacred tradition. So, for example, the newborn's grandmother, after washing the baby, she rubbed his body with ashes from the fireplace so that his skin would always be smooth and free of hair. The baby's other grandmother was to get a heavy blanket and put it over the door so that no sunlight could enter the room where the mother and the baby lay. It was thought that the light was harmful to a newborn baby. Now, for 18 days, the mother and the baby would lay in this darkened room. Now, each day, a mark was made on the wall above the baby's bed, and a perfect ear of corn was laid under each mark. On the 19th day, the mother got up and spent the day grinding corn into a sacred meal to be used in the special ceremony the next day. So on the next morning, the new mother's female relatives arrived at her home well before dawn, dressed in their most colorful shawls and carrying gifts of cornmeal and perfect ears of corn. All the grandmothers and the aunts each took a turn at bathing the baby in yucca suds and giving it a name. Now, you may wonder, what is the father doing during all this time? Well, he's been living in what they called a kiva, which is an underground ceremonial chamber, and he was watching for the sun. Now, when the sun began to come up, the father would tell the women, the grandmother would carry the baby, and as the sun came over the horizon, the grandmother lifted the baby, turned the bundle so the rays fell directly on the little face, and now the baby was considered a full member of the family. Now, because of the extremely high mortality rate among the early Native Americans, these ceremonials were a lot of times delayed for as long as a year. Now, the Omahas in eastern Nebraska, they believe that certain people have the gift of understanding the sounds made by a baby. So when a little baby cried a lot and couldn't be comforted, one of these people was summoned. Sometimes the person decided that the child was crying because it did not like his name. So in such a case, they just would change the name of the baby. Now, if you think about a modern mother with raising an infant without drugstore, with potions and powders and disposable diapers, think about the North American Indian mothers that raised babies with only what nature had to provide. Now, the mothers powdered and oiled their babies with what was at hand. The Mandan, living on the northern Great Plains, pounded buffalo chips into a powder, warmed the powder with hot stones, and rubbed it on the baby's bottom and under his arms and under his toes and between his fingers. The Mandan babies were also greased and painted with red ochre as a prevention against chafing. Now, down in the south along the Mississippi River, Natchez babies were rubbed with bear grease to keep their muscles and ligaments flexible and to prevent fly bites.
Hold the microphone still, Dr. History, please. Hold the microphone by your mouth.
Okay, I got it right there.
All right. We've only got a minute left. Minute left, real fast, please.
Okay. The women of early North America, they had their own forms of disposable diapers. Among the Natchez, the Spanish moss was tied to a baby's thighs and buttocks before the infant was tied in his cradle board. Pre-babies were kept in a bag stuffed with dry moss, rotted and crumbled wood or pulverized buffalo chips mixed with cattail down. And when a child soiled the bag, the moss was shaken out and a fresh supply was stuffed in. The Hopi babies were diapered with a fine cedar bark, which had been softened until it was absorbent like a sponge-like material. And the cradle board, practically a universal symbol among Indian babies, was the forerunners, of course, of today's baby carrier. But they provided a firm, protected frame. A baby in a cradle board could be propped up or even hung in a tree. The Fox Indians thought it necessary to keep a baby on a cradle board to prevent a long head, humpback, or bow legs. But sometimes all the special care and the amazing ceremonies were not enough to prevent death. Indian mothers could expect to lose at least half of their children in infancy or childhood. So, Zeb, I think that's about all I have for today. I know it sounds like we're not coming through very good.
Yeah, it was not the best. It wasn't the best quality, and that's too bad. You couldn't hear me. I couldn't hear you sometimes. But next week we'll be back in the studio, and we'll have a much better program. But I want to thank you very much, Dr. History, for your effort this morning, and learned a lot about how babies were born and raised in the Indian traditions. Thank you very much, and we'll talk to you next week. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Zeb.
All right, sir. Take care. Apologize for the technical qualities during that segment. It wasn't what we wanted, but unfortunately, sometimes cell phones, they all deserve to be thrown in the river. Anyway, I want to remind everybody real quick about our dear friend Anthony over at Save on Shells, 1827 Overland Avenue in Burley. Get your shells now, your camper shells for your pickup, before you have all the fishing equipment in the back of the truck or all your different tools, etc. Please protect them and stop in and check out all the camper shells at Save on Shells, 1827 Overland in Burley. Absolutely the best place to go. And if they don't have just the color or whatever that you're looking for, they can order it for you with the ARE camper shells. Absolutely the best. 312-1525. The number to call Anthony at Save on Shells, 1827 Overland in Burley. Right now, let's send it back over to our main studio, and we'll be back in just a few moments.
And now, Now back to Zeb at the Ranch on AM 1230 KBAR. To reach Zeb, call 436-2244 or toll free 1-866-927-4587. And now, here is Zeb.
Oh, we're going to get right into it. And, of course, it's the Idaho Legislative Update for today, brought to you by Handy Truck Lines at 400 West, 100 South of Paul. They were established in 1928 and going strong, providing transportation services to Idaho and the surrounding states. Absolutely the best at what they do. Remember, Handy Truck Lines, the number to call, 438-5071. And with us this morning on the Idaho Legislative Update is our dear friend, Senator Kelly Anthon. Kelly, good morning, sir. How are you?
Good morning. Thank you very much. I'm doing really well, Zeb. Thanks.
Well, what in the world is going on at the legislative session? I know that you're in a little bit of a hiatus for a short period of time, and there's a lot of things we want to talk about, but tell us about the break that's taking place right now in the session.
Sure. So last Friday, the Senate was informed that the House of Representatives wanted to take a 2-week break. They had some COVID-19 outbreak inside of the House of Representatives, so that was, I think, their main reason for doing so. The Senate's always kind of maintained that we should all be there working together, so we agreed. We agreed to take a 2-week break. I wasn't entirely surprised, Zeb, because there's so much money flowing into the state of Idaho from the federal government right now that I knew that we would likely have to take a break for no other reason than to sort through all that money and make sure that the legislature was actually having a hand in how that's appropriated. So I kind of anticipated a break. It wasn't quite for this reason, and it was a little bit unexpected. But, yeah, there's a 2-week recess right now, and then the legislature will reconvene on April 6th.
Now, the reconvening, Kelly, how long do you think the session will go on from that point? I mean, normally we look at about the end of March as being elongated enough for our session, but now we're into April. I mean, what are you looking at? How many issues are still on the table?
Well, there are a lot of issues still on the table. It's a question of how long we will stay there, for sure. So to give you a flavor, Zeb, if you looked at the calendar of the Senate, meaning how many bills still are supposed to be heard on the Senate floor, it's lengthy. It would take at least a week working morning and night, at least a week to work through all that on there. And as of yet, there has yet to be a good tax cut bill or a good, and this is arguable, but maybe a good transportation bill. So there's still yet work to do in just trying to get the right bill to the Senate floor. I'd anticipate that you're at least a week to 2 weeks after April 4th, or after April 6th.
Oh, my. Now, let's talk a little bit about the $2.2 billion federal money. How is that earmarked, or is it?
Yeah, so under the Biden money that's coming into the state of Idaho has been earmarked in certain ways. So some of that goes to hospitals, some of that goes directly to school districts. There is a direct amount of money that's going to every county in the state of Idaho based on population and unemployment rates is how this money was calculated. And then there's also money for local governments, local units of government like cities. And that has to be appropriated and sent out from the state of Idaho within 30 days of its receipt in the state. So there is some discretionary money in there, Zeb, and that's going to be part of the work that they're going to have to do in Boise with the legislatures to sort out how to spend that. But otherwise, there is also a lot that is non-discretionary that will go directly to the local units of government, and then they're going to be accountable to make sure it's spent correctly.
Okay, now, with the discernment of the Biden administration making huge tax increases to fund for, like, infrastructure, et cetera, are there plans for using some of that money or the bulk of it for infrastructure here in the state of Idaho?
Yes, some of the money can be used for infrastructure, and the local governmental units can use it for water lines, wastewater line projects. It is not earmarked for roads, which is pretty frustrating. But it's also for your COVID response, and it can be used for emergency services. So they've put some funny, restrictions on it, and a lot of that hasn't even been completely developed. So this happened the last time that money was spent by the federal government for COVID. Local government units received the money, but the guidelines from the U.S. Treasury took weeks and weeks to follow, and so there was a lot of confusion as to how the money could be spent. And I'm seeing a little bit of that now. But we're hoping that within the next week or two we'll have better guidelines as to how the money can be spent. There is real effort on the state level, both in the governor's office and in the legislature, to find money to fix transportation needs. The state is flush with cash right now. We have received in tax revenues way more than was projected, hundreds of millions of dollars more. And I'm of the opinion that we need to give some of that back to the Idaho taxpayer and then use some of that to fix our roads.
Absolutely. Let me ask you this, Kelly. The newspaper, the TV, radio, coverage of the legislative session, the liberal side of this seems to say that there's much more of a contentious legislative session than ever before. Would you agree, or is it business as usual up there?
So I would disagree. I think actually what you're seeing between the House and the Senate is a much improved and much more cooperative effort than I've seen in my entire time in the legislature. Leadership between House and the Senate is working together in a productive way, knock on wood, more productive than I've seen it ever. And, in fact, that's why I think we will be able to get to some property tax relief, I hope, to some income tax relief, and then also throw a considerable amount of money towards fixing transportation costs. We really need to get serious in Idaho about some of our transportation needs, Zeb. One thing about state government I've noticed is we don't do a good job in formulating a strategic plan. And what I mean by that is we really should have a good 20-year plan as to what maintenance needs will pop up, what we need to be doing, and how we're going to fund that. And I know that the Transportation Department may cover pieces of that, but the fact of the matter is the legislature does not. We do not do a good job of funding those transportation needs. And one of the things I keep bringing up in Boise is the Magic Valley, because we all know there's a day coming where the Prime Bridge will not be enough or will need to be replaced.
Yep.
We all know that right now in Burley, you're running all of your industrial truck traffic over the Overland Bridge and into the industrial areas of West Burley. And that can only be sustained for so long. I think we've got to be more forward-thinking and funding the forward-thinking in a way that we can accommodate what growth comes or what industrial growth comes. And so that's kind of a pet project of mine, Zeb. I really like the idea that we're going to use some of the money that we have sitting around for transportation.
Well, let me jump in here a little bit, and I might be sounding a little bit trite on this, but I'm really miffed. I'm mad about what's going on with this Biden administration, with the absolute slap in the face to agriculture and trucking companies and the private citizenry, where they demand that thou shalt get rid of gasoline and diesel vehicles in the next couple of years, and we demand that you go finance and buy an electric vehicle, etc. We are not at all prepared to go electric with solar and wind power, and the electrical grid is not ready for the sudden surge of all the million uses. This is insanity, and we've got to put our foot down and say that if we're going to have transportation work right and correctly, we still have to maintain on fossil fuels.
Well, that's right. I mean, really, everything that we have, whether it's transportation, our food production, everything we have is tied together.
Yes.
And certainly I am concerned about a lot of the policies that I'm seeing come out of Washington, D.C., not only out of the Biden administration, but out of Congress, where we talk about getting rid of dams without a good alternate energy source already in place and so on and so forth. But Idaho right now has the third best economic outlook of any state in the United States, according to many. And there's a reason why that is. And there's a reason why people are moving in almost seemingly by the droves to the Boise Valley. It's because we have improved the state through, in my opinion, conservative policy. It's low regulation, low tax, give businesses freedom, make sure we're not interrupting with the way business transpires. And that's served us well. And the concern I have, to your point, Zeb, is when you get the federal government tinkering based on good feelings and good ideas, supposedly, then you're going to hurt the economy. And that's what's happening with the oil and gas industry. It's what's going to continue to happen. And by the way, all this money that's coming from the federal government, you know, much of it we could do without, to be honest with you. And that's coming out of future taxpayers' pockets, my kids' pockets, because we're operating on debt. And there will be a reckoning. There's a reckoning coming where we're going to see hyperinflation, I'm afraid of, or at least a great increase in tax rates.
I don't see how anyone like our Congressman Mike Simpson could make overtures to remove the dams in this day and age of uncertainty with the Biden administration saying cutbacks on energy, when we're talking about removing the barge traffic down the river and putting many more, thousands more trucks trying to get the grain to the coast, etc., and the costs would be enormous, and all of it's going to come back and the farmers are going to make less. We're talking about an absolute reduction in our economy with the dam removal, and I want to go on record in saying it's the dumbest thing I've ever heard.
Well, Zeb, you're not wrong. I mean, the fact of the matter is removal of those dams would significantly impact wheat production in the state of Idaho. And that's not to mention the, I think, 137,000 customers that rely on electrical power, steady electrical green and cost-effective power off of the dams in southern Idaho. Right here in my district, Burley-Rupert area, these cities and these communities, these local co-ops, they rely on the Bonneville power system to get their power. And the question is, if the dams went away, where's the power going to come from? And there's a lot of talk, but there's no supply. And so that's why I say I haven't seen the supply yet that would replace my power if you knock down the dams. And what that could very well mean for ag production and food processing in southern Idaho is if you're not careful, you're going to drastically increase the input costs.
Yes, absolutely.
North, it's going to hurt the price of wheat for sure. But when you talk about increasing the cost of running everything that we have down here on electricity, it's going to damage the economy significantly.
Absolutely. You know, in the time remaining, we've got more subjects to talk about, but I also want to mention that there has been, and I've had quite a few calls here at my program, etc., in regards to the curtailment, I'll use that phrase, of powers from the governor, especially like what we've seen through the COVID problem. What are your thoughts on this?
Well, a couple of things, Zeb. First of all, I'm sure that you have listeners who think the governor did a good job, and you've got listeners who think he's done a terrible job. I recognize that there's that spectrum, and I have my own opinions about that. But the fact of the matter is that one of the things that has really transpired in the COVID-19 outbreak is an understanding of how the current statutes, the laws that we have on the books, function in time of emergency. And what's become very clear to me is that the way they are written, there's some changing that needs to take place. And so I've been working on that. And, you know, the truth is, here's the truth about the curtailment of powers. Any power that's in a statute that's given to the governor is not inherent power of the governor. In other words, that's the legislature's power that they've given to the governor to do something. So when you talk about changing it or bringing it in just a little bit, that's not taking powers away from the governor. That's just readjusting power that the legislative branch already has. So there's a fine legal point there. But my overall point is, no one's trying to strip the governor of powers. We're just trying to readjust it so that when we have emergencies in the future, there's a nice balance, and that the governor has the power to act quickly, to do the things that he needs to do to solve emergency situations in a hurry. But at the end of the day, you know, when you talk about $1 billion flowing into the state of Idaho, the Idaho Constitution says that is the legislature's job to spend that money. And I believe very firmly that most Idahoans want the full government in place in times of emergency to make sure we're balancing powers and we're following the Constitution and we're doing it in a way that's good for Idaho.
One other issue I want to touch on this morning before we run out of time, and I'm very adamant that I want something done with his office, and that's our Attorney General Wasden. Other state attorney generals right now are joining together and forming a power play against the Biden administration and suing the Biden administration because of the influx of illegal aliens coming across the border and literally going everywhere. Our state is one of the states that they're aiming at. And I think that Wasden needs to take a stand on this and help the other state attorney generals in a power play to say to the government, close the border and make it only legal entry only. What are your thoughts?
Well, the first thing that comes to mind, Zeb, is if you look at all the factors in history that have made the United States a powerful and successful nation, one of them that rises to the top is the rule of law. That if you have the law and people honor the law and you enforce the law, then you have a society that will flourish. And all you have to do is look to our neighbors. Look south to Mexico, where they struggle with the rule of law. Look to Asia. Look to other places in the world where, the rule of law is basically whoever has the money kind of makes the rules. And the little guy never gets ahead. There's a reason why we have American exceptionalism, where people can be born into nothing and rise to the top. It's the rule of law. It's one of the main factors. So we need to be defending this concept when we can't just close our eyes and let people break the law, or you undermine the entire system of government that we have, in my opinion. So I encourage any attorney general and our attorney general to stand up for the law, stand up for enforcing the law. And if the law doesn't work, then go to the Congress and you change the law. But you don't just ignore the laws of the country, because we will be in much, much worse shape when we do that.
Kelly, I've kind of taken over a lot of the topic selection this morning, but in your opinion, quickly, I've got about 3 minutes left before I have to do a weather forecast and wrap up the show. What other issues are very prominent still at the state legislature that have to be addressed?
Sure. Well, I think one of the things that we have to continue to work on very quickly in the legislative session is tax cuts. I mean, we are just raking in money right now, and I appreciate the economy's doing well, but we have to be very smart about it and measured. But I believe that we are in a position where we need to return some money to the Idaho taxpayer. The other thing I think that's we haven't talked about, Zeb, that's hanging out there, is we are going to have to start dealing with the issues of industrial hemp, with CBD oil, with marijuana, and some of these things. And as you know, I do not support recreational marijuana. But when we look to Oregon, to our sister state, look at the state of things there. They currently have made illegal the use of plastic straws for your drinks, while at the same time they have decriminalized possession of heroin, cocaine, and methamphetamine. And this was done by voter initiative, by the way. I mean, we have to be smart here in Idaho. We've got to be protecting ourselves, because we are headed to that direction if we're not careful. So I would like to see actually the legalization of industrial hemp, which does not have the negative effects of marijuana, and allow farmers to grow that. But it gets so tangled, and so that's a big issue that's still hanging out there, Zeb.
Wow, there is a lot of truth in what the Bible says. What is good becomes evil, and what's evil becomes good. And unfortunately, we've got to weed all of this out. Senator Kelly Anthon with the Idaho legislative session, I appreciate it. Our update for this morning, please, and I mean this, come back soon.
Thank you, my friend. Thanks for letting me be on.
God bless you, man. Thank you. Senator Kelly Anthon. And always a treat to learn what's going on. And he is a straight shooter. He's going to tell you the truth, and I appreciate it. Wow. I've got to get ready for the weather here real quick. But first, I want to remind everybody about Edith's Cafe at 144 East Highway 81 in Burley. And before I do that, let me back up and say a big thank you to Handy Truck Lines for sponsoring the Idaho Legislative Update. They have been so good good to us and come on as a sponsor. And as you know, it's a very efficient, safe, and dependable truck service provider that has grown throughout the generations to serve you. Handy Truck Lines, providing truck services throughout the western United States. These folks are very, very good, first-class people that want you to know everything that's going on at the Idaho legislative session. Handy Truck Lines at 400 West, 100 South of Paul, 438-5071. Now, let's run over to Edith's Cafe at 144 East Highway 81, right across from the golf course in Burley. They're open Tuesday through Thursday, 11 to 8, Fridays and Saturdays, 11 to 9. And I'm telling you, firsthand experience, the food is delicious. Absolutely great food. And they do catering, too. And besides that, you can call in an order, and they'll have it ready for you. The number to call, 878-2248. Edith's Cafe. Believe me, dining is a lot of fun, and it's great food at Edith's Cafe, 144 East Highway 81 in Burley. Little side note, try the peach cobbler with ice cream. Oh, it's good. Right now, let's go to the weather forecast, and the weather brought to you by Scarro's Meats. Don Scarrow and the crew at 331 North Road, Jerome. My goodness sakes, the number to call for the delicious meats, 324-7657. Go to their website, scarrowsmeats.com, and check out all the hams and all the bacons and all the tri-tips and all the sausages and the bratwurst. The list goes on and on. You're going to love the meats from Scarrow's Meats over in Jerome. And right now, here's Gina with the forecast.
A few more snow showers for this morning. Then we're expecting mostly cloudy skies by the afternoon and a high of about 47. Slight breeze out of the west at about 10 miles an hour. For tonight, mostly cloudy skies, hopefully gradually clearing with a low right around 25. By tomorrow, looks like partly cloudy skies, high of 46. Slight chance of snow showers for tomorrow night with a low of about 32. Then by Thursday, guess what? More snow showers in the forecast, mostly cloudy skies, and a high of 43. That's a look at your weather. For Zeb at the Ranch.
I'll tell you what, Gina does a great job on the forecast, and Don Scarrow and the crew do a great job with the Scarrow's Meats, 331 North Road, Jerome. Again, the telephone number, 324-7657. They are changing the way we eat, one delicious bite at a time. Let's take a look at our Bible verse for this morning from Psalms 86, verse 7. I will call to you whenever trouble strikes, and you will help me. Amen. Right now, before I take a call, I've got to get this in. I want to remind everybody about our Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, all 7 locations serving you with a great big spring tire sale that's going on right now. All the tires, all the tread designs, all the sizes for your vehicle. You stop in and see them today. These are people that all majored in tireology, and boy, when you ask a question, they've got the answers. Big spring tire sale at your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, along with the best in brake service, front end alignment, shocks and struts and batteries. See James and Buell, Dan on Pole Line in Twin Falls, Lane and Rupert, Mike and Jerome, Dave on Blue Lakes and Twin, the Twist family in Paul, and my buddy Trent on Overland in Burley. The best. They care. The best in service. Your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. Caller, I've got exactly 30 seconds. Go fast. They hung up. Okay. Well, we're near the end of the program for today, and I want to say thank you again to Senator Kelly Anthon for coming on for our legislative update. Tomorrow on the show, we've got some great people, Gregory Wrightstone and Armin Brott, Dave Bigo, and our segment, Why Not God, with Pastor Alex Lissau. All of that tomorrow on the show. We always say at the end of our program, the way things were are the way things ought to be. And the 4 words that mean the most to me, in God we trust. Be careful out there. We'll be back at 8:06 tomorrow morning. Zeb at the Ranch. Take care.